And welcome to Creepy Real. Welcome back. A podcast where we're talking about all things and anything creepy that we've experienced or may have heard of in our life. All right, it's your boy Mel, your favorite Baldy. I'm in the building with thy lady Grace, Miss Alex over here, and we're taking you from the shores of the Caribbean to the Loch Ness. All right, we're talking about ghouls, ghosts, and goblins and everything in between. So if you're listening here with us, we thank you. We want you to turn the lights down real low, set the mood, because we're about to creep it real.
Let us pray. Defender of the human race, look down in pity upon this, your servant.
Shut up, you worthless piece of shit! Ah!
Silent!
All right. I'm trying to keep it a little lighthearted. As you can see, that's The Exorcist. I've never been to an exorcism, but I do have a creepy type story that I feel is can be in the same genre as an exorcism, if you will. So when I was a kid, I'm Puerto Rican, of course, obviously, right? Who can't tell that? When I was a kid, we used to visit Puerto Rico all the time because my dad's family was down there, and every year we would go down there. When we moved up to America, there was like a hurricane had happened, and the house that we lived at was destroyed. The upstairs, the downstairs, my grandparents' house was still there, but my father had built his house on top of his parents' house. So, long story short, hurricane comes, knocks down the house. And there was this, apparently someone was burning. And the more I tell the story, the more details that kind of come back. Someone was like burning a picture of like my grandparents or something up there.
That's creepy.
Right? Like, so we don't, like, I don't remember. Because again, I must have been like 7 or 8. And now this is all stuff you hear as a child from, where you're not supposed to be listening to your parents speaking. But, that's what we do. So, or we did. And I remember hearing about that. And nobody knew like where it came from. But I don't know. I remember that same trip. I'm pretty sure it was that same trip. We ended up going to this place that we had visited before when I was a kid. And it's called the Centro, right? So I guess what would happen there, like all the elders from like the community or whatever the case may be, they would all gather there and they would sit at a table like the one we're sitting at. And they would wait for the person to pasar por sala. That means for them to pass through or whatever. And to me, that was like so impactful seeing that as a kid. And I was like, wow, like what's going on here? And apparently, I guess I used to fall asleep there standing up. So that's really creepy to me.
Yeah,
that's a story that I've heard.
Like a horse.
Yeah,
like a horse.
Yeah, I was just sitting there like just standing up asleep. That's such a memory that I have of going to this place when I was a kid. And I know it's not an exorcism. I'm probably ODing and everything, but it was still it was still something that you don't see every day.
Yeah.
Now around that area there was this guy where we lived at where I'm from Gurabo, Barrio Jagua. So in Puerto Rico we have barrios like we have the cities like Meriden or Hartford or whatever the case may be. The little communities are called barrios. So Barrio Jagua, there was this guy who they used to call him El Loco de Jagua because this guy used to walk around fighting with the air and like legit like fighting with the air.
That's what I do in my free time.
Of course, who doesn't, right? You got to stay sharp on your game. And he would be fighting and talking to these things. And apparently what had happened was I had asked, and I was a kid, and I was visiting, because it would freak me out, like, to see this guy, because I had a lot of freedom when I would go down there. So my parents would, the whole family's, like, within a radius of each other in this thing. So I could go walk here, walk there. But that guy would creep me out, and I wouldn't want to walk if that guy was out. So I asked, and I guess this guy was seeing, he was, like, the story is that he was visiting a babalao. Now, what a babalao is if you've heard of Santeria and stuff like that, that would be like a high priestess or something like that. So I guess he was seeing him, and it ended up making him crazy.
Stop.
Yup. And ever since then, the guy stayed like that.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's insane.
That's like possession.
That's possession. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
To me, that's something that's like, so I'm always like when it comes to things like that, I'm like always like, but it's interesting though, nonetheless. Like, it's for some reason, it's like, even though you're like, I'm good, you're interested, like you're kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I gotta watch creepy stuff by myself because like my wife's not into it.
Yeah.
But I watch it all the time. And you were telling me a story about your aunt, and it's super creepy.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's very similar to the crazy guy.
Yeah. So my family is the whitest white you can get, from Ireland, straight potato pickers.
Okay.
The first
I
kind
love
of, me too.
I make good potatoes.
I love potatoes. But the first kind of story I've ever heard was, in my family, was about my great grandmother who we had this intuition, this gift, if you would call it that. Her name was Irene. And she sat my mother down when she was a kid. And this was kind of like the first story I ever heard of my family about this. She said, I am not going to be around very much longer, and it's not going to be pretty. She passed away 2 weeks later in a car accident with her husband. And the husband lived, but she passed away. And that was kind of my first kind of story about our family.
That was your introduction.
Yes, like the gift that we have. And then the gift kind of skipped a generation. My grandmother has no connection whatsoever. And then it went to my oldest aunt. The gift went right to my oldest aunt. And the story that she tells all the time, before she became a nurse, she was a realtor doing her regular realtor duties.
Yeah.
Going to a property. Yeah. She went to a property, and the person that she was showing was already there
Creepy.
before her. Already creeped out.
Yeah. Like, why are you here?
Yes.
Were they in the home?
No, they were outside on the property,
Okay.
but still.
I was yeah.
Yeah.
But still, yeah.
Yeah. Did her regular thing, showed him the house, whatever. And then she was like, I'm going to go grab a smoke. And she was having a smoke, and, she had this feeling that something ominous was happening. Something's out to get her. Something bad's going to happen. And she turned around, and the deck was connected to the kitchen. You could see right through the doors. And she saw this man that she was showing the house to staring at her, had this huge smile on his face. And she called my mom immediately. She was like, Jen, I think this guy's going to kill me. And then she went back up the deck to look through the window, and gone.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, gone.
Wow.
Gone. No tires screech, no door slamming, no.
All I could picture is like the Pennywise smile. Like,
oh yeah.
Like when you you know what I mean? Like so like creepy like.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So she obviously she hightailed it out of there, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, that was like that's her that was her first that was the story that she tells like all the time, and she's with her cards now. She could like read cards and whatever, but that's her like main kind of story.
Is that the one that kind of like got her like
creeped her out the most? Yeah.
But also like maybe like I'm not saying motivated. It kind of like pushed her into that, like into walking into her gift.
Or, she's very spiritual now, and I think that was kind of like the first moment when she realized that she has some sort of intuition in her blood.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's special.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. That is special, and it's interesting because I know you said you were super skeptic, or you were very skeptic on the whole supernatural.
Yeah, so my family is all from Italy, and with Italy is a lot of like Catholic religion and stuff. And we're not necessarily we don't necessarily believe. I think we believe in a lot of like good spirits and that kind of stuff, like not disrespecting the dead, but we don't really believe necessarily in like ghosts and demons, ghouls, that kind of stuff. But one of my biggest breaking points with that was an experience I had when my little brother Ozzy was 2. He's around 8 now, so it was 6 years ago. I had a childhood dog. Her name was Petra. She was a Great Dane. I loved her. But she was about 14 at the time, which, if you know anything about Great Danes, that's pretty old for a Great Dane.
Dogs in general, 14, and dog years by 7. That's a lot of math.
But she was doing fine. Like she was old, but she was doing fine. Like she had gray hair. And Ozzy, because he was 2, he wasn't super interested in the dog necessarily. But one day he was laying on the dog bed with her in the living room and was like, Sissy, Mommy, Dad, Petra wants to go home. And we're like, what do you mean she wants to go home? Like, she is home. She's
We
sitting
are
in the
home.
living room.
We are home, son.
But he like was super insistent. Like, he's like, no, she wants to go home. She's sad. She wants to see her mom. We're like, oh, okay, man. Like, kind of pushed it to the side. I mean, he was 2.
Now, in his defense, did you guys ever like? Was she like a family dog? Or was anyone in the family ever meet Petra's mom?
No, we never met Petra's mom, but he was super insistent. Like, she wants to go home. She wants to see her mom. And we're like, okay, man, like, whatever. 2-year-old saying 2-year-old stuff.
They say the darndest things. They're kids,
Yeah.
you know?
So we like went to bed. We're like, sure, Oz, whatever. And then 2 days later, she passed in that bed.
Wow.
Just like, it couldn't be like 2 full days either. It was like 2 days.
You know, that's crazy. They say that kids are tapped in, like they're super tapped in because they're like so pure and so innocent. So how I believe that. So that, of course, that would make you a believer.
Yeah, that like
your innocent little brother, you know, is having these next level conversations with.
And I mean, this is a
dog.
2-year-old too. They are not like focused for the most part, but he was insistent. Like he was as insistent as he was about Blaze and the Monster Machines during that conversation. Like he was.
Yeah. And you see that type of stuff all the time, like online with like parents, like, oh, my kid's like, you know, seeing these things and those type of apparitions and stuff. Like it's kind of crazy.
Like there's a ghost right behind me, isn't there?
Now, we spoke about the medium. The dogs. I wanted to tell you a story about my dog. I had a dog when I was a child. Her name was Sasha. And when my parents passed, we had to split. They had to split custody, so we ended up losing the dog. And now I tell you this because I saw a medium, and my dog came through in the reading.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, not came through to talk to me, but she said, "Oh, there's a dog that's around you all the time," and I was like, "Wow!" Like I was never. I never even thought about that, and I was super skeptical about going to a medium, because it wasn't even for me. Like my daughter was like during the COVID time, my daughter was super into like her spirituality and stuff, and like me being a girl dad, like I'll tap in with you. Like I want to see what you're getting yourself into,
like, girl,
and whatnot.
You do you.
Yeah, you do you. But I'm gonna
spectate.
Yeah, I'm gonna spectate. So they're like, oh, you want to get read too, and I was like, sure. So that happened. I never was read by anyone in my family that from my dad's side, because like they've all long been passed, and I don't really know who was who in that aspect that had that gift. But besides that, and then my other experience was as well with one, but this is the one that kind of turned me off. Was like this one lady that I was acquainted with, and she was insisted on wanting to read me and give me this message, which was a total crock of, like, it just made no sense. So I was like, you know what? I'm good. But not to discredit the gift. I mean, I'm sure there's people that have it. You told me that you had one actually visit your home.
Yeah, well, going off what you said, I was a huge skeptic for those reasons. Like I feel like there is a lot of fakers out there.
Oh yeah, there is.
And there's definitely a lot of people who are in it for the money.
Because I've always heard that you're not supposed to charge for your gifts. Like that's, you know what I mean? If you have a gift, you don't charge for it. Like that's a gift. You know what I mean? So how are you going to charge?
But yeah, I saw a medium, and me being very skeptical, I made sure she didn't know my name. I didn't pay.
You made it hard for her.
I made it hard. I didn't drive there. Paid through another person. But it was a group session, so there was about like 6 people in my house, and we all had like single sessions. So she would call us into a room, and do her medium business.
Like have the session.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I got asked very last minute, so I was immediately not sure. But going back to the dogs, one of the spirits that came through was actually my childhood dog, Petra. She started to explain. She's like, "Did you have like a big dog as a kid?" I was like, "Yeah."
So I'm not the only person.
Yeah. And she was like, "I have 2 dogs right now, and one of them's a little Frenchie." And she was talking about how dogs that have passed, like spirit dogs, can talk to dogs that are living right now or understand them. And she was like, your dog Betcher is telling me how your other dog, Aspen, the Frenchie who was scratching at the door the whole time, is mad because Petcher was in the room with me, but he wasn't allowed in, and he thought he was my baby, so he wanted to be let in. So cute.
So just to make sure I understand this, your current dog, who is alive and well,
Yeah.
is pretty much having a play date with your
Deceased dog,
deceased
yeah.
dog. Okay. Wow.
I wouldn't say play date because he was jealous,
okay.
that was kind of interesting to hear for sure.
Wow.
And not only was Petcher the only person to come through, my aunt was somebody who came through, which she died in pretty tragic way. So I wasn't sure she was going to come through, especially because I never met her.
Yeah.
Hers was pretty like generic, just words of advice, that kind of stuff. But then the last person was what really like sent me through a loop. And she started out by all of a sudden she like got really relaxed and like started swearing casually, and I was like, oh, a little weird, but sure. Like, we've been in this room for 45 minutes. It's kind of weird now.
We have a rapport. You can swear.
Yeah, it's all good. And then she was like, did you have a friend that passed young? And at the time, well, still now, I had a friend that passed when he was 19 while I was in college, but he was a friend from middle school, high school, the whole shebang. And I immediately like burst into tears when she said that. I was like, oh my gosh, there's only one person this could be. I didn't have any other friends who died at 19, thank gosh. But she started being super casual and was like, oh, he says I can swear around you. Like, started cracking jokes with me.
It's a safe place.
And these jokes were like inside jokes from high school. Like, she doesn't know what high school I go to or what town I'm from. She doesn't even know my real name. So why would she know?
Yeah.
These like little inside jokes. And then she started telling me, this is what really sold it. She started telling me drawings I used to do in high school, like in our English class.
That's insane.
I was like, nobody knows what those are. Like, he sat in front of me. That was the only reason he knew, because he would turn around to annoy me. And then she was like, oh, he's showing me like the funeral and you're not there. And that was like,
that would kill me.
gut-wrenching a little bit.
And you weren't there, right?
I was not there. At the time, I lived in New Hampshire, and
Yeah.
I don't have 4-wheel drive, and it was a blizzard up there, so I didn't make it home. But I like held a lot of regret, obviously. Like, that is my friend from high school that died. Of course I'm gonna regret it. But she said that he was talking about the funeral, and he said he knew what I would have been there if I could have. Which
that would have
was
killed me.
awesome.
I know, but isn't that though kind of amazing at the same time that he's kind of like trying to
that like relief.
trying to console you at that same time, like, hey, I'm good.
Yeah, like I'm chill. And he had a hard life, so
you rest in peace. And so you had a pretty like decent spot on experience with the medium too. So then in that aspect.
Yeah, it really sold it for me.
You know what's funny you said about I never heard that story about your aunt. But we've talked about this before, but it's funny because my daughter, who's never met my sister because my sister had passed, I wasn't in for her reading, but I guess she came through for her. So that's pretty cool, like a little auntie sibling, a little auntie niece vibe thing.
Watching over me,
even
though I don't know her.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I know you said you had an experience, but you were like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. I was like, nope. So me and my friend, we went to Salem one year,
which is super paranormal in itself.
Oh yeah.
You know, Salem.
And she had an appointment, and she
with
had
a medium.
Yeah, with a medium in Salem, and I was, and she was like, just make an appointment. I'm like, no, thanks, girl, no. And dropped her off, and I was like, hey, I'll be right next door. I'll meet you right back out here. I'm gonna go grab myself a voodoo doll.
Of course, medium's too creepy for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go the safe way and get a voodoo doll. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the logic. Okay.
And I wasn't even in there more than like a minute. Dropped her off. Yeah, and then I was about to leave, and the lady was talking to her, and then right as I opened the door, she was like, "Are you sure you don't want an appointment, Grace?"
Nah.
No, it literally didn't even say my name.
How you know my name?
How do you know my name? and no, I don't. Not after that.
You just said my name. I'm out.
It's like what you guys were explaining. Like, I did not want the emotional wreckage.
Because there really is. I feel like
It takes a lot out of you.
It takes a lot out of you.
And I don't want that. I believe in it. I believe that there's fakers and people that take your money and they don't have the gift. But I also I know that there's real mediums like my aunt that's intuitive and can tell stuff. But the real ones I believe in. I totally believe in. But I don't want that. I don't want that knowledge. I don't want to know who's saying what about me. I don't want to feel like that.
Yeah, and I feel like in a situation, and that's so right. You say that about like the emotional charge, because I feel like after, even though I wasn't like super like into it or whatever, I still feel like some of the things that these people could tell you, you could kind of harp on that, and it's a lot of like just baggage. Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know,
like
and
I feel like no matter how positive, like it still takes a lot out of you.
It does. Like I picked her up and she was bawling.
You see what I'm saying? And that's not something I want.
No, and that's not. And it would. I was like, it's gonna ruin my whole day, and of course, it ruined her day. She was crying for the rest of the day.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
that's horrible. I would never want to purposely put myself in a position to be upset.
No.
But
Ghosts!
Ghosts! Toast. If you see ghosts, your butt is toast. I have another ghost story for you. Well, not another. It's my first one. So, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this dog story, and I know my buddy Joe has because he co-signed it. There is this dog where I'm from in Meriden. There's this Tale of the Black Lab. Now, this Black Lab, if you see it once, Gracie, I know you were there. If you see it once, it was good luck. If you see it twice, sorrow. And if you see it 3 times, you are marked for death.
Yep.
And the reason we know this is because when we're telling the story to our buddy Joe, he actually doubled down, co-signed the story, Googled it, told us that this is that American, like a North American story based out of right here in Connecticut. There's this black lab, and he's by Hubbard Park in Meriden. That's where they say he's at. So I could co-sign it. There's this black dog that if you see this dog, you're in trouble. Now, they tell the kids this story since you're like in kindergarten all the way up through high school.
So this is Meriden deep-rooted lore.
Deep-rooted lore. My gym teacher, Mr. Sullivan, told me this in elementary school. So if you see the dog, you're in trouble. It was me and my buddy Sam, and we were on the west side of town. And we must have been like 15 years old. We were on pedal bike. We were on bikes. And we're going down Main Street, and there's like a hill by the park, and it kind of takes this curb. So we're flying or whatever. I lose him. My man hits the bushes. Boom. Gone. So I pull up or whatever, and I'm like, I catch up to him. I'm a little huffy, and I'm like, hey, dude, you're all right? And he's just like, the dog. And I'm like, what? And he's like, the dog. And like, I'm telling you, he turned as white as a sheet of paper. And this kid is tan. All right? Like, he got that like Taino sun on him. Like, he's super dark Puerto Rican. My man turned white. I said, oh my. And I thought to myself, I said, dog. And I didn't realize where we were. When I realized where we were, he's like, dog. And I was like, dude, we gotta go. I'm telling you, like, we hightailed it from West Main Street down. I'm telling you, we must have been down in downtown Meriden in like 0.2 seconds for pedal bikes. Something absolutely crazy. It just freaks to this day. Like I get the goosebumps talking about it. There's so many ghost stories in Connecticut. There's another one that I saw, and so I was working late, and I was coming from I was on calls. I was working late, and I'm driving up the Berlin Turnpike, and I get to this light. And I see like this lady, like she's like dressed like in white. I'm telling you, like a wedding dress type thing. Mm-hmm. And I see this lady, and it kind of like, I'm like, is she gonna move? You know what I mean? And I got the closer I got, she looked like she like floated, hovered across the freaking drive the street.
And you said this is Berlin Turnpike?
Yeah.
Are you sure this wasn't a local crackhead?
I mean, it could have been ghost crack. I don't know. Do ghost smoke crack? I don't know. But she was levitating, so it could have been crack. Yeah. I don't know. But it was something creepy, and I'm not the only person that's seen this person. and she levitated across the road.
The crack ghost.
The ghost of crack past. It's crazy. Crack pipes past. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But that was my ghost story of like CT lore that I know that many people have heard of these two. These two stories. Yeah. I know you said you had one in your town. Because there's a lot of up in that area.
Yeah. So I live in Deep River, which is like the shoreline. So think all the ivory trades and the steam train specifically.
Okay. Yes.
So my story is about XYZ. There's a grave in the cemetery, which is right next to the elementary school and right next to the bank, or the old bank.
In the small, quiet, sleepy town.
In the cool, like so small, everything about it. And there is, all the way in the back of the cemetery, right by the woods to the steam train, there is a grave marked XYZ. Now, every kid is told this story because we all visit the cemetery as like a field trip. Yeah. Because it's right behind the school, and there's a frog pond. We're not just visiting people's graves. But it was a story.
So there's more activities there. You're not just grave robbing.
Yeah, it's not just grave robbing. We were always told the story about XYZ, who was a bank robber. So right at the Deep River Savings Bank, there was 3 men who were going to rob the bank, and the police were tipped off about it. So they were going to arrest them, obviously, on site. And there was a security guard posted outside. Everything was pretty normal. They broke in. But what they didn't know was that they were armed. So there was a huge shootout, and one of the guys ended up being killed. Now, the other 2 were caught. They have names. I don't remember what the names were. Yeah. And they were accomplices. They had this whole plan, but they had no idea who the third person was. They don't know who he is to this day. No names. Nobody fessed up. Like, they won't sell him out.
That's some real outlaw stuff.
So he was buried, in the back of the cemetery, with the name XYZ on his grave. Now, another creepy part about this is there was somebody who they think is a woman writing letters to like the town hall saying to mark his grave XYZ, like no name, no nothing. So that's what they did. They actually listened to these random letters and marked the grave that. And every year for a long time, there is known to be a lady that comes and visits his grave in the winter that hops off the train in all black and leaves flowers on his grave.
I wonder if she's related to your white lady.
They might be cousins.
Yeah, maybe little tea friends. But
Ghost tea.
Ghost tea. We don't know who she is. Anytime she got asked who XYZ was, she just ran away and seemingly disappeared. But kids still to this day leave little pennies on his grave so they don't get like cursed by the bank robber.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, and I believe because I've been to your town. It's such a like quiet, sleepy town with the steamer. It reminds me of like Gilmore Girls and Hocus Pocus, like to get like in one. Like it's so New England, so Connecticut, like so New England.
Yeah, that was our favorite field trip every year. Yeah, go see XYZ.
I believe it.
Now I want to visit.
You
should. You've already had so. Again, Connecticut, awesome Connecticut ghost stories. Connecticut, we have the Warrens, and they were from Connecticut, and if I'm not mistaken, you said they were out of Monroe.
Yes.
But they did like I remember I saw the movie. The Exorcism was from the house in Southington. You visited.
Yeah. So so the Warrens are from Connecticut. They lived in Monroe, and they had this shed that had all these artifacts in it. And
I'm familiar with the shed because I saw a show on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it talked about how the Warrens collected all these artifacts from all the paranormal activity that had been involved in.
Yep. And, when they were alive, they used to have these tours where you could come look at the shed. Ed would be there, Lorraine would be there, and they would tell you all about, their paranormal investigations. They would tell you about these artifacts that have been in the house. And they're world renowned, and it was a big thing. And my dad tells the story to me all the time because I was five years old when he brought me here. And this was when Ed was still alive, and we went to one of the tours, and we were there. Ed was doing his spiel about just like the local ghost stories and their investigations, and there was this hardcore biker dude there. And my dad said right in the middle of the show, he was like, "This is bullshit. This isn't real."
Well, why'd you come here?
Literally, why'd you come here? And Ed fired back because he was a brute, and he was like, "All right, you want to stay here? I'll give you a sleeping bag. You can stay here and tell me in the morning if it's real."
Now he was Ed. The wife was the medium, right?
Lorraine Warren was the medium, and Ed.
He did the.
He was kind of her. I think he was just kind of a protector of sorts. He would be her backup.
Yeah.
Because she would get really affected by seeing, especially like bad things that she saw.
Yeah.
It would affect her a lot, and I don't know if this is true, but in the movies, he actually like banished a demon, which usually it's only like a priest who could do that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just like this big brute of a guy. And yeah, so Lorraine was the medium. And going back to the story, my dad didn't really think about it. He thought he was just some asshole at this event.
Yeah.
And next day he turns on the news and there's breaking news that there's a motorcycle crash and one person dead in Monroe. And so my dad goes, I wonder if that's a coincidence. And, he looked up the location, and 5 miles from the Warren house. Apparently it happened at 3 a.m. This guy, that big brute of a biker guy, dead. It was him on the news.
Those are the witching hours,
Yeah,
too.
3 a.m. Something must have happened. He must have maybe he insulted the spirits in there.
Looked at the Annabelle doll.
Looked at the Annabelle doll. I'm sure that was already there at that point.
Oh
in time.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Giving back the date or whatever. I'm pretty sure that was already there.
Yeah, it was like 2005.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mess with that. No way.
You could only imagine. That just makes your imagination just run wild as to what possibly happened that made this guy hop on his bike and just and probably met a pole or something to his demise.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's super crazy.
That's insane.
I mean, Connecticut's really like a spiritual place, but I always think about the natives. Like I always have a feeling.
Well, Connecticut's built on
stolen land
and graveyards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do you think all the people that lost that were killed? Where do you think they're buried?
And that story about the black dog of Meriden. It's obviously it's not a dog. It's something else, and it reminds me of the native spiritual the spirits about shapeshifters and wendigos. Yeah, like it might perceive it's a dog, but it's probably not a dog.
I actually have a story almost directly connected to the natives and wendigos. So my grandfather hiked the entirety of the Appalachian Trail when I was a kid.
Okay.
We used to track him on a little map. It was adorable.
That's awesome.
But he had a dog out there. He actually got attacked by a bear and a dog came and saved him. Cool. Yeah. But he hiked the rest of the trail with this dog. His name was Bobo. And to preface, the land he was on, I don't remember what part, but it was Navajo land. And they're the ones that really believe in the Wendigos and the Skinwalkers and that type. And Pop is my grandfather. He was whistling for Bobo, who wanders, and he was a hiking dog. We found him on the trail, so obviously he knew his way around. And he sees Bobo come, and Pop's whistling, and he stops whistling because Bobo's coming, and all of a sudden he hears somebody whistle back. Now, if you know anything about the Appalachian Trail, the whole whistle thing, don't pay attention to the whistle.
Listen.
Yeah.
As a cable guy, when I was still going into houses, I once whistled in someone's house, and they told me I could not do that, and I didn't know why.
Yeah, it's something with a lot of their spirituality and all native land, don't whistle. And if you do whistle or if you hear a whistle, don't pay attention to it. You didn't hear it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there one that it's if you hear them call your name, you don't respond?
Don't respond,
yeah.
Don't pay attention to it.
You have to ignore it.
Yeah.
But not only did Pop hear this whistle, but the dog heard it too. Bobo turned around. So they were looking around, didn't see anything. And then suddenly they saw a dude behind a tree. And it just looked like a normal hiking dude. I mean, they didn't think anything of it. They were near one of the huts. So that's the only time you really see people on the Appalachian Trail. And they didn't think anything of it, waved to each other, whatever. And Pop and Bobo kept going. And days later, when Pop made it to like local land, had Wi-Fi and stuff, there a body was found. And not only was the body found, but it was that man. And they had found it like a week before Pop met that person.
Stop.
Now, that always makes me like, I did research on Navajo spirituality and like what they think of like wendigos and stuff, and they can like shapeshift supposedly of their victims. So I've always thought to that day, I'm like, that
was a wendigo.
That was a wendigo that killed someone,
Wendigo
and that was the body that was found.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's
so creepy.
Insane.
Listen, man, Connecticut lore. That the Wendigo stuff, I believe, and it also makes me think like, I don't know, it bugs me out because I drive a lot around here and I see a lot of animals all the time, and I'm like, man. And then you kind of look and the animal's gone. It bugs you out.
You like never forget it. You're always thinking about it from that moment on. You're like, wow, that shouldn't have creeped me out, but it creeped me out.
Yeah.
Like, why does that feel wrong?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed talking creepy with us as we crept it real and we creep it real. Continue to join us. Next time, we're going to be talking even more creepier Connecticut stories. Grace, Alex, thank you guys for joining me today. Everybody who joined us on the stream, thank you guys very much. You guys enjoy. Have a great day.